Alright, gang, that was Kiss with Parasite from Hotter Than Hell. And joining me right now, a fellow enthusiast of Kiss and, like me, tired of hearing the same two songs on radio, which is why he plays everything else but the same two songs on his own show, and host of that metal show, none other than Eddie Trunk. How are you, Eddie?
I'm very good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me here inside the asylum. You have kind of become my unicorn, if you will. Been after you for a year now, and I want to just thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me here inside the asylum.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to do it. And I think I saw you mention it on Twitter, and I said, absolutely, let's hook up. So here we are.
Awesome, man. Now, the first things first, let me congratulate you and the guys on an amazing first week for that metal show, being the highest rated telecast of 2013 for VH1 Classic. I mean, that is amazing news. What was your first reaction when you heard that?
Well, needless to say, I was really very happy. I mean, our biggest concern going into this season of the show was letting people know that these shows that they're seeing are new, because and that the new shows have started, because we have had repeats running for this show for longer than we've ever had. In other words, the longest amount of time has gone by without new episodes. So we were all really concerned and all working hard to get the word out that these were new shows, and we finally had new shows back. I mean, there were some people that thought the show was not even coming back on, that were, had kind of forgotten us to some degree because we had been in repeats so much. But, that was only for two reasons, really, because the network decided that that's how they wanted to give the show a little bit of a rest and retool some things, and that's exactly what you see in the new shows. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have had comments about the new set, the new features, some of the new things we're doing. So during the downtime, it was really just a case of everybody putting their heads together and saying, okay, when we relaunch this thing, what are we going to do different? Because that was something that VH1 Classic was very adamant about, is wanting some new things and a new coat of paint on the show. So we're just happy and thrilled that people noticed that these shows were new, and that came right back to us when this new show started, and hopefully we'll continue to build it and watch it. I mean, that's the key now, is for people to now stay with us for the next 7 weeks of new shows and make that number go even higher as even more people discover that the show's back on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it has been an exceptionally long time for the new episodes. I think everybody did a really good job of getting the word out about the new episodes, between yourself and Don and Jim, and everyone being so active on social media. I'm kind of surprised. I would be surprised if there was anyone that didn't know that there were new episodes.
Well, there are people out there. I mean, not everybody is tied into social media. Not everybody's on the internet like we think sometimes. I mean, there are people that are just now watching the first show and realizing it. So, the key, I think, here is that I hope that, now, there's still 7 more weeks of new shows, and I hope that people, more people come to the party as each week rolls out. The good news is that, most people were really, really happy with a lot of the changes and some of the new things we've done in the show. So that's important too.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I have enjoyed greatly the new style, the new format. I actually enjoy the new set because it almost has more of a vibe of a bar hangout. It's almost reminiscent to the Rainbow Room out there in LA.
Well, I got to be honest, there's been a lot made of the set and the table and all that, and although I understand, people watch the show and that sort of stuff is, important to some people. I honestly don't care at all. I mean, I just don't. I mean, if the set looked ridiculous or looked bad, maybe I would say something. But I mean, I'm just so happy doing the show, and that the show is on the air, and that people are watching it, and it's been on the air for 5 years, and it gets the response that it gets, and it gets people watching, like the ratings information you just referenced. I mean, to me, that's all that matters. The cosmetic, I don't really care about. So, as I've said on Twitter and stuff, I mean, I'd sit on cardboard boxes and do the show if that's what it took to get it done. So, I mean, I leave that to everybody else, whether they like or don't like the cosmetic look of the set. I'm just glad there is a set, and glad that there is a show, and glad that we're doing it. That, to me, is the number one most important thing. But I also understand that I come at it from a little different angle, being on the inside of it. I understand that if I was a viewer looking at it and all of a sudden something changed so much so quickly, in terms of just seemingly overnight, it would be a little bit of a jolt. But it's very comfortable. Having that table there is comfortable, and I don't care if it's this set or the old set or some different set. Let's just keep doing the show.
Exactly. I mean, it's mainly that's what it's all about, just keeping the show going, and the fan base is there, so I see no sign of anything slowing the show down in any way, shape, matter, or form. Now, I want to ask you, because you're, as you said, you're on the inside, and everyone's going to be their own critic on the outside, saying what they think and all that, and, being that the show has been on 5 years and you're now in the 12th season, of the changes that were made for this season, which are the ones that really kind of stood out to you and that you like in regards to what's happened with the show over the years?
Well, I think that what I really liked about the first 2 episodes is, and it's only going to be this way in the first 2 episodes, Jason Newsted and the Stone Sour episode. What I really liked is that they were just the only guests in the show, because I like having the extra interview time. I'm always looking. For me, I come from radio. I still do 2 radio shows a week. I love being able to do lengthy interviews on the radio. It's kind of what I'm known for. And I love being able to have extra time with the guests on the set. So that's really, when we can do that, that is something I really, really like, because it just, instead of 6 minutes, it gets me 12 minutes to kind of talk to these guys, and for Don and Jim to talk to them too. I mean, we all, that's the other thing. I mean, we've got 3 guys sitting there, so everybody may have a question at one point or another. So that's something that I really enjoy. Although, like I said, that's only that way in 2 of the 8 episodes. But going forward, I'm hoping we can do that in all the shows. But there's, there's a lot of different, new segments in the show that I think work. I mean, we've tried, and there's some stuff people haven't seen yet. That's the other thing people have to understand, is that every show is going to be a little bit different as far as what features we have in it. There are a lot of people that went crazy because in the first episode we didn't do a top 5 list. Well, this week's episode, there is a top 5 list. You can't jam a bunch of new things into a show without taking out or resting some things. So, whenever something new comes in, most likely something has to come out, at least for that episode or for that season. So we're trying different stuff, but for the most part, I think that everything that we've tried in this new season has worked. There's nothing that's been in this that just didn't work. But there are things people haven't even seen yet that are coming up in this season. We do a thing called the TMS Rant. We do a TMS Book Club. We do a thing called Landmarks. So I think before people make judgments on anything, Let's let the whole season play out, and then look at it overall. Because the idea was to keep it fresh and change it up a little bit, and I think that's what we've done. But what I like the most is the fact that 95% of the response to the new things that we've done and the new look of the show has been positive. And I'm really happy about that. I mean, we've done some stuff in the past that maybe didn't go over so well. So we listen, we look, we try things, and we go from there. And I think that's really important in the growth of the show.
I can understand people's resentment towards maybe not having the top five in every episode, but that was a topic that always worried me throughout the early seasons as a viewer of eventually you're going to run out of top five topics. So it was either that
was a problem. That was one of the reasons why. The one thing that we do not do, that we got rid of altogether, for at least this season, was the throwdown, because we were starting to get thin on throwdown topics. It started to get a little bit lean in terms of really good, juicy topics that you could really get everybody excited about. There's no point in having a debate and doing a throwdown argument if you go around the table and everybody says the same thing. So that was one of the things that we realized. We said, let's chill this out for a little bit. So, yeah, listen, I mean, I'm just glad, like I said, that people watch and people are so passionate about all these things we do. And in total honesty, another one of the reasons why people were upset about, in the first show, there being no top five, and there's 2 top fives in the 8 shows, is because people wanted to see Jennifer come out in a skimpy outfit. And I understand that. 99% of the people that were screaming about it were guys that wanted to see her come out and walk out, and flip a board. And now I realize why everybody roots against me and stump the trunk, because that's a chance for her to come out with prizes. I get that. She looks a hell of a lot better than the 3 of us, so it's all good.
As you said, it's all good, and she's a little bit of extra for the guys out there that want that little bit more than just the rock and metal conversation. But 95% of us enjoy the interviews and everything that you guys are doing, and I look forward to each and every episode. I mean, the first one with Jason Newsted was just an amazing episode, as well as this past weekend's episode with the guys of Stone Sour. And this coming weekend is kind of a milestone for That Metal Show, as it's going to be the 100th episode of That Metal Show. And I know you don't really look at all the numbers and everything, and you're just glad to do it, but when you first heard that, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I had been hearing about it for a while, because honestly, depending upon how you count, we could have already passed 100. It really comes down to how you want to count the shows, because we've done some specials. We did a special from England. We did a special from Vegas. So we've done a few specials. So it's like, well, if you count those, 2 episodes ago may have been 100, but they've marked this one as the 100, and it's great. I mean, the only thing, though, I have to warn people about is, at least as far as I know, if you think that something special is going to happen in that show, to my knowledge, it isn't. I mean, I didn't even know until I was doing press for this season that is the 100th episode. So I don't think, there's no balloons that fall from the ceiling or anything. It's just a normal, regular episode that we do. A couple great guests in it. It was Rex Brown and Sebastian Bach, but there's nothing really overly special about that show outside of us just doing another, great show with a couple great guests. But the bigger picture is we're just thrilled that we've made 100 shows.
Yeah, and also,
and hopefully we make 200.
Oh, I can definitely see you guys going for 200 very easily. And I think really the biggest part that speaks to the success of the show is it doesn't feel like it's been that long. There's been such a natural flow to each and every show and each and every season that it doesn't really feel like it's been 100.
Well, I mean, that's just that's part of the growth of the show too. I mean, changing it up. We started out as a half-hour show from New York. Now we're an hour show from L.A. We never had any sort of person playing. Now we have drummers, guitar players, bass players playing. We're working in new features. We're expanding the scope of the artists that we have on, from rock to metal to slightly left and right turns in there. So the metal modem thing we're doing now, which is a lot of fun to incorporate people in that aren't local. So it doesn't feel like it was that long. It's been that long for me either. And the other thing too you have to understand is that for us it really doesn't feel that long, because in reality we really don't do this show for very long during the year. I mean, the amount of time we spend on this show in our year is very minimal, meaning that a lot of people don't realize how we work, but we only do the show, tape it maybe 3 times a year, and we do 2 shows a day, and most seasons are only 8 shows. So if you do the math, that's 4 tape days to do an entire season. And with some meetings and stuff around there, it's basically comes down to being about 5 to 6 weeks out of our year that we're even focused and working on that metal show. The rest of the time people are seeing them and we're all on to other things. So it certainly doesn't feel like it's been that long at all for us. So if I had my way, I mean, I'd be doing it every week, every day. I mean, but it's not, it's not my choice, and the budgets are not mine that I have to control. So, it's expensive. But I mean, that's my only thing is I wish we did it a lot more frequently, and we were much more active with it than we are. So I think there's a ton still yet to be done with this show.
Absolutely. I mean, the show, I've said each and every year, I wonder what you guys are going to do the following year, and you guys always manage to meet expectations, at least for me, and, each year is always something new, and I've never felt, as a viewer, as a fan, that you guys have ever, or that the producers have ever really dropped the ball in any way, shape, or form.
Well, thanks. I mean, it's just fun to do it. It's great to know that people are watching it and still care about it, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, man. Now, real quick before I let you go, I want to step away from that metal show, because you have Volume 2 of your book coming out later this year. Do we have a date yet for it?
Well, I just saw that Amazon's taking pre-orders for it, and they're listing a release date of September 23rd. So I would think that somewhere around the middle of September, copies will start showing up in stores.
Very good. Very cool, man. Looking forward to it. I have the first one. In fact, I came out to one of the book signings for the first book, and I intend to do that for the second one. Is there anything different that those that have the first book should expect from the second, or is it just really a continuation of where you left off from the first one?
No, it's a total sequel to the first one. The same publisher, the same format, the same features. Everything is exactly a complete continuation of the first one. So many people loved the format and the layout and how easy it was to read and the balance of stories and photos and all that I kept it exactly like that. So the big difference, of course, is that it's completely different bands and stories and photos, but outside of that, everything else in Volume 2 is follows right along as a direct companion to the first book.
And was the Volume 2, was it easier for you to write compared to Volume 1, as you kind of had a list or idea of bands that you forgot about or didn't have room for in the first book, or was it as difficult, or was it more difficult than the first one?
Well, the difference was that in the first book, if people have my first book, it's very much it's big. It's a lot of huge name bands. AC/DC, Aerosmith, Kiss, Van Halen, what have you. This second book is going to be some really big bands, but also some bands not so well known, bands that were a little bit more under the radar. And if you have the first book, and if you look in the back of it, there's a couple pages in the very back that say More Essentials, where a bunch of bands just get a quick paragraph mention. That's kind of where I started with the second book. Not all, but most of those bands in that section are now full featured in the new book. And then there's some additional ones as well. So I kind of use that as an outline because those bands in the very back of the first book were bands that I didn't have space for in book one. So that's most of what book two will be as far as the bands. But, that's basically how it was set up, and that was kind of my outline. As far as writing it, it was actually probably a little bit more difficult, only because this one I literally wrote myself, whereas in the first book I had some help with the text and stuff. But this book I literally sat there in front of a computer and typed every word, and then my editor, of course, shaped it and did a great job, cleaning it up to some degree. But this one, whereas the first one I basically dictated it to somebody, this one I physically sat there and typed it.
Awesome, man. I am anxious to see Volume 2 and to read it. I really did enjoy Volume 1. It was definitely a page-turner, and one I did not put down till I got all the way through it, and I look forward to doing that with the second one later this year.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it coming out. It's the big thing with books is there's so much lead time, so it's been done for a little while now, and I've got a meeting on Monday to go finally see the final version before it goes to the printer. So all the steps of doing a book, and then of course getting out there and promoting it, I look forward to as well. So hopefully I'll see you out on that run.
Definitely, man. I'm going to keep my eyes open to that, and I get all the congrats on the book and on the future of that metal show. And as I tell everyone, Eddie, once you've been inside the asylum, you are welcome back anytime you like. I'm honored to have you join me here.
Well, thank you very much, and maybe we'll talk again when the book comes out in September. I'd like that.
Definitely, man. Sounds like a plan. And before I let you go, I never let anyone out of the asylum without a song request. So why don't you give me one, brother?
How about, I don't know, when I'm talking to you here, it's a rainy day in New Jersey, maybe something a little up-tempo. One of my favorite albums of all time is Rocks by Aerosmith, so how about something like Sick as a Dog?
Sounds like the perfect choice. Get that on for you right now. Aerosmith with Sick as a Dog. Eddie, thank you for joining me here inside the asylum. Everyone stay tuned. More tunes still to come.